The crystal water glass shattered against the marble floor as Vincent Kane's latest personal assistant stormed out of the boardroom, her resignation letter floating down like a white flag of surrender. The sound echoed through the silent room where 12 board members sat frozen, their faces pale with shock. This was the 47th assistant to quit in 24 months, and today's dramatic exit happened during the most important meeting of the year. "I can't take this anymore," she had screamed, her voice cracking with exhaustion and frustration. "You're impossible. No human being should have to work under these conditions. Find someone else to be your personal slave." The door slammed behind her with such force that the expensive paintings on the wall trembled. Vincent Kane stood at the head of the mahogany conference table, his 6-foot frame rigid with controlled anger. His steel-gray eyes swept across the room, taking in the uncomfortable expressions of his board members. Not one of them dared to meet his gaze. At 32, Vincent had built Kane Industries into a billion-dollar empire through sheer determination and ruthless efficiency. But his success came at a price that everyone around him paid. "Meeting adjourned," he said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The board members scrambled to gather their papers and exit as quickly as possible, leaving Vincent alone with his thoughts and the mess of broken glass at his feet. Vincent's phone buzzed with an emergency call from his head of human resources. "Mr. Kane, we have a serious problem. The Henderson merger is tomorrow, and you need someone to coordinate the final documents. Without an assistant, this deal could fall apart." The Henderson merger was worth $300 million and had taken 18 months to negotiate. Vincent had personally overseen every detail, working 18-hour days to make it happen. One missing signature or misfiled document could destroy everything he had worked for. "Get me someone. Anyone. I don't care if you have to drag them off the street," Vincent barked into the phone before hanging up. As he walked to his corner office on the 50th floor, Vincent reflected on how he had earned his reputation as the most demanding boss in the city. He expected perfection from everyone around him because that's what he demanded from himself. His assistants were required to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They managed his calendar, his meals, his dry cleaning, his travel arrangements, and even his personal appointments. Most couldn't handle the pressure of his constant criticism and impossible deadlines. The truth was, Vincent didn't know how to be any other way. Since taking over his father's struggling company at age 25, he had sacrificed everything for success. He had no friends, no hobbies, and no time for relationships. Work was his entire life, and he expected the same dedication from everyone who worked for him. His office phone rang again. This time it was his lawyer calling about the merger documents. "Vincent, we need those contracts reviewed and signed by 8 a.m. tomorrow, or the whole deal collapses. The other party is already getting nervous about the delays." Vincent rubbed his temples, feeling the familiar tension headache building behind his eyes. He had built his empire by controlling every detail, but now his inability to keep an assistant was threatening to destroy everything. The irony wasn't lost on him. His greatest strength was becoming his greatest weakness. As the sun set over the city skyline, Vincent stood alone in his office, surrounded by the symbols of his success but feeling completely isolated. The merger documents sat on his desk, waiting for someone to organize them. His calendar was a mess of conflicting appointments. His phone kept ringing with urgent calls that needed to be sorted and prioritized. For the first time in his career, Vincent Kane felt truly helpless. He had conquered every business challenge thrown at him, but he couldn't solve the simple problem of finding someone who could tolerate working for him. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He was about to lose the biggest deal of his life because he had driven away every person who tried to help him. The cleaning crew arrived to sweep up the broken glass, and Vincent watched them work in silence. They moved efficiently and without complaint, doing their job with quiet dignity. It occurred to him that these people probably knew more about respect and teamwork than he did. They worked together to solve problems instead of creating them. As the night deepened and the office building emptied around him, Vincent made a decision that would change his life forever. He would find a way to make this work, even if it meant admitting that he needed to change. The question was whether it was already too late. Destiny Washington sat in the waiting room of Kane Industries, her hands folded calmly in her lap as she watched 3 other candidates flee the building in tears. The first woman had lasted exactly 12 minutes in the interview room before rushing out, muttering something about impossible demands and total insanity. The second made it 15 minutes before emerging red-faced and shaking her head. The third didn't even make it to the interview. She took one look at the stack of requirements and walked straight to the elevator. The receptionist, a tired-looking woman named Patricia, glanced at Destiny with sympathy. "Honey, you might want to reconsider this. I've been here for 3 years and I've never seen anyone make it past the first week as his assistant. Mr. Kane is, well, he's demanding doesn't even begin to cover it. Destiny smiled softly, her dark brown eyes reflecting a quiet determination. I appreciate the warning, but I really need this job. She wasn't lying. Destiny needed this job more than anyone could imagine, but not for the reasons they might expect. The salary was excellent, but more importantly, Kane Industries offered the best health insurance in the city. Her younger brother Terrence was fighting leukemia, and the experimental treatment he needed wasn't covered by regular insurance plans. This job was literally a matter of life and death for her family. At 26, Destiny had already worked her way through college while caring for Terrence and their elderly grandmother. She had managed offices, handled difficult customers, and dealt with impossible deadlines. She had learned that patience and organization could solve most problems, and that kindness often worked better than confrontation. The door to Vincent's office opened, and his booming voice carried across the reception area. Send in the next candidate. And Patricia, call the temp agency again. We're going to need backup options. Destiny stood up, smoothing down her simple black dress and adjusting her pearl earrings. She had chosen her outfit carefully, professional but not flashy, confident but not aggressive. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she carried herself with the quiet grace that came from years of handling difficult situations. As she walked into Vincent's office, she took in the scene quickly. The room was impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, expensive artwork lined the walls, and every surface was covered with stacks of papers and files. Vincent himself stood behind his massive desk, his dark hair slightly disheveled and his expensive suit wrinkled from a long day. Destiny Washington, she said, extending her hand with a warm smile. Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Kane. Vincent looked up, and for a moment, something flickered in his gray eyes. Most candidates either cowered in fear or tried to impress him with fake confidence. This woman seemed genuinely calm and comfortable, as if she belonged in his office. Sit down, he said curtly, not returning her handshake. I don't have time for pleasantries. Can you work 80-hour weeks without complaining? Yes, sir, Destiny replied without hesitation. Can you be available 24 hours a day, including weekends and holidays? Yes, sir. Vincent frowned. Her answers were too quick, too easy. He decided to test her further. I need coffee at exactly 7 a.m., lunch at 12:30 p.m., and dinner reservations made for whenever I decide I want them. I need my dry cleaning picked up, my car detailed, and my apartment cleaned. Are you prepared to handle personal tasks? Of course, Mr. Kane. Managing your schedule and ensuring your daily needs are met is part of being an effective assistant. Vincent leaned back in his chair, studying her face for any sign of doubt or hesitation. The salary is $60,000 a year, but you'll earn every penny. I expect perfection in everything you do. One mistake and you're gone. Most people can't handle the pressure. What makes you think you're different? Destiny met his gaze steadily. Mr. Kane, I've been taking care of my family since I was 18. I've worked 3 jobs while going to school full-time. I've dealt with medical emergencies, financial crises, and every kind of stress you can imagine. I'm not afraid of hard work and I don't give up easily. There was something in her voice that made Vincent pause. He had heard dozens of candidates promise they could handle his demands, but this woman spoke with the quiet confidence of someone who had already proven herself under pressure. Fine, he said finally. You start tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't be late. As Destiny stood to leave, she turned back with a grateful smile. Thank you, Mr. Kane. I won't let you down. After she left, Vincent sat alone in his office, trying to understand why this interview had felt different. There was something about Destiny Washington that intrigued him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. She hadn't tried to impress him or make excuses. She had simply listened to his requirements and accepted them with grace. For the first time in months, Vincent felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he had finally found someone who could handle working for him. The question was whether she would still feel the same way after her first day on the job. Destiny arrived at Kane Industries at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes before her required start time. The building was nearly empty, with only security guards and cleaning crews still working. She had spent the previous evening researching everything she could about Vincent Kane and his company, preparing herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. Patricia, the receptionist, arrived at 6:15 a.m. and looked surprised to see Destiny already at her desk outside Vincent's office. You're still here, she said with amazement. Most people would have run after yesterday's interview. I told Mr. Kane I wouldn't let him down, Destiny replied, organizing the files that had been left on her desk. I intend to keep that promise. Vincent arrived at exactly 6:30 a.m., carrying a stack of documents and wearing a fresh suit that somehow already looked wrinkled. He glanced at Destiny without greeting her and headed straight into his office. Coffee, he called out. Medium roast, no sugar, exactly 1 tablespoon of cream. And I need the Henderson merger files on my desk in 5 minutes. Destiny moved quickly but calmly, locating the coffee machine and preparing his drink exactly as requested. She found the Henderson files in the chaos of his desk and had everything ready in 4 minutes. When she knocked on his door and entered with the coffee, Vincent looked up with the slightest expression of surprise. The files are organized chronologically, she said, setting the coffee down at the perfect distance from his right hand. I also took the liberty of creating a summary sheet with the key points and deadlines. Vincent picked up the summary sheet and scanned it quickly. It was perfect, concise, thorough, and exactly what he needed. How did you know to do this? I noticed you had multiple versions of the same documents scattered around. I thought a summary might save you time during the meeting. Before Vincent could respond, his phone started ringing. Answer that, he said. Screen all calls except for Johnson, Henderson, and my lawyer. For the next 3 hours, Destiny fielded phone calls with professional efficiency. She took detailed messages, scheduled appointments, and handled routine inquiries without bothering Vincent. When lunchtime approached, she knocked on his door again. Mr. Kane, you have a lunch meeting with the Henderson representatives at 12:30 p.m. Should I confirm the reservation at Romano's? Vincent looked up from his computer, realizing he had forgotten about the lunch entirely. Yes, confirm it. And call my driver. I already confirmed the reservation and your driver will be here at 12:15 p.m., Destiny said with a smile. I also took the liberty of ordering your usual meal in advance to save time during the meeting. Vincent stared at her. How do you know my usual meal? I called Romano's and asked what you typically order. I hope that was appropriate. For the first time all day, Vincent felt a moment of genuine appreciation. His previous assistants had always waited for explicit instructions before taking any action. This woman was actually thinking ahead and solving problems before they occurred. The afternoon brought a series of crises that would have sent most assistants running. A major client threatened to cancel their contract, the merger documents needed last-minute changes, and Vincent's car broke down on the way back from lunch. Through it all, Destiny remained calm and resourceful. When the client called to complain, she listened patiently and scheduled a meeting for the next day. When the merger documents needed revisions, she contacted the legal team and coordinated the changes. When Vincent's car broke down, she arranged for a replacement vehicle and had it delivered to his location within 30 minutes. By 6 p.m., when most of the office had gone home, Destiny was still at her desk, organizing Vincent's schedule for the next day. Vincent emerged from his office, loosening his tie and looking genuinely tired for the first time. You're still here, he said, echoing Patricia's words from the morning. I wanted to make sure everything was ready for tomorrow, Destiny replied. Your schedule is updated, your calls are prioritized, and I've prepared briefing notes for your morning meetings. Vincent looked at the neat stack of papers on his desk, then at Destiny's calm, competent face. Why are you really here? He asked suddenly. You're overqualified for this job, and you're certainly too intelligent to put up with my demands just for the salary. Destiny hesitated for a moment, then decided on honesty. I need the health insurance, Mr. Kane. My family has some medical expenses that require excellent coverage. Something in her voice made Vincent step closer. Medical expenses? My younger brother is sick, she said simply. This job provides the insurance he needs for his treatment. Vincent felt an unexpected pang of emotion. He had assumed she was just another ambitious assistant looking to advance her career. The reality was much more personal and much more meaningful. I see, he said quietly. Well, you've done good work today. Be here at 6 a.m. tomorrow. As Destiny gathered her things to leave, Vincent found himself watching her with new respect. She wasn't just surviving his impossible demands, she was excelling at them. And she was doing it for reasons that had nothing to do with impressing him or advancing her career. For the first time in years, Vincent Kane felt like he had found someone who truly understood the meaning of dedication. By the end of her first week, Destiny had accomplished something that seemed impossible. She had actually made Vincent Kane's life easier. The Henderson merger had closed successfully, his calendar was organized, and his office no longer looked like a tornado had hit it. More importantly, she had begun to notice things about her boss that others missed. Vincent arrived at work every morning at exactly 6:30 a.m., but Destiny had started coming in earlier to observe his routine. She noticed that he always paused at the large window overlooking the city, staring out at the skyline for exactly 30 seconds before starting his day. She also noticed that he never ate lunch unless she reminded him, and that he worked until at least 9 p.m. every night. On this particular Friday morning, Vincent seemed more tense than usual. His jaw was clenched, his movements were sharper, and he had already snapped at 2 different department heads before 10 a.m. When Destiny brought him his morning coffee, she decided to take a risk. "Mr. Kane, is there anything specific I can help you with today? You seem stressed." Vincent looked up sharply, ready to deliver his usual dismissive response. But something in Destiny's expression stopped him. She wasn't prying out of curiosity, she was genuinely concerned and offering to help. "It's nothing I can't handle," he said curtly, but his voice lacked its usual edge. "Of course," Destiny replied. "But if you need anything, an extra meeting scheduled, calls returned, or just someone to handle the smaller details, I'm here." Vincent nodded and turned back to his computer, but Destiny's words stayed with him. When was the last time anyone had offered to help him without expecting something in return? He couldn't remember. Around noon, Vincent's phone rang with a call that made his entire body tense. Destiny watched through the glass wall as his face went pale and his hands began to shake slightly. The call lasted only 3 minutes, but when it ended, Vincent sat motionless at his desk. Destiny knocked softly and entered his office. "Mr. Kane, your lunch meeting with the Peterson Group is in 20 minutes. Should I reschedule?" Vincent looked up at her, and for the first time she saw vulnerability in his gray eyes. "Yes," he said quietly. "Cancel all my afternoon appointments." "Of course. Is there anything else I can do?" Vincent hesitated, then shook his head. "No, thank you." But Destiny could see that something was seriously wrong. Throughout the afternoon, she quietly managed his calls and handled his correspondence while keeping an eye on him through the glass wall. Vincent sat at his desk, staring at nothing, occasionally running his hands through his hair. At 3 p.m., she made a decision that went beyond her job description. She called Romano's and ordered Vincent's favorite meal, then arranged for it to be delivered to the office. When it arrived, she knocked on his door again. "I thought you might be hungry," she said, setting the meal on his desk. "You missed lunch." Vincent looked at the food, then at Destiny. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," she said gently. "But you need to eat something." Something in her tone broke through Vincent's defenses. "My father died 3 years ago today," he said suddenly. "That was my mother on the phone. She's having a hard time and I don't know how to help her." Destiny felt her heart contract with sympathy. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Kane. 3 years isn't very long when you're grieving someone important." "I should be over it by now," Vincent said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I should be stronger." "Grief doesn't have a timeline," Destiny said softly. "And caring about your mother doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Vincent looked at her with surprise. No one had ever spoken to him like this with such genuine compassion and understanding. "She wants me to visit this weekend, but I have work to do." "The work will still be here on Monday," Destiny said. "But your mother needs you now." Vincent picked up his fork and took a bite of the food. It was the first time he had eaten anything all day. "Why do you care?" he asked. "Because you're not just my boss," Destiny replied. "You're a person who's hurting and that matters." Vincent studied her face, looking for any sign of manipulation or false sympathy. But all he saw was genuine kindness and concern. "I don't know how to be around people anymore," he admitted. "I've been alone for so long." "You don't have to be alone," Destiny said quietly. "And you don't have to be perfect all the time." For the rest of the afternoon, Vincent found himself thinking about Destiny's words. She had seen him at his most vulnerable and hadn't judged him or tried to take advantage. Instead, she had simply offered comfort and understanding. When 6 p.m. arrived, Vincent made an unusual decision. Instead of working late, he packed up his briefcase and headed for the door. As he passed Destiny's desk, he paused. "Thank you," he said simply. "For the food and for everything else." Destiny smiled. "Have a good weekend with your mother, Mr. Kane." As Vincent left the building, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years, the knowledge that someone actually cared about his well-being. It was a small crack in the armor he had built around himself, but it was a beginning. Monday morning brought an unexpected change in Vincent's demeanor. He arrived at work at his usual time, but instead of his typical brusque greeting, he actually looked directly at Destiny and said, "Good morning." "Good morning, Mr. Kane," Destiny replied with a warm smile. "How was your weekend?" Vincent paused, setting down his briefcase. It was good. Thank you for asking. My mother appreciated the visit. I'm glad to hear that, Destiny said, handing him his coffee and morning briefing. You have a light schedule today, only 3 meetings and a conference call. Vincent nodded, but instead of rushing into his office, he lingered for a moment. Destiny, I want to thank you again for Friday. You didn't have to do what you did. Yes, I did, she replied gently. Taking care of people is what I do. Vincent felt that familiar tug of emotion, but this time he didn't fight it. Would you like to grab lunch today? I mean a working lunch. We could discuss some upcoming projects. Destiny's eyes lit up with surprise and pleasure. I'd like that very much. At noon they walked to a small cafe near the office. Vincent had chosen it because it was quiet and private, but also because it reminded him of the places he used to visit with his father. As they settled into a corner booth, Vincent found himself actually relaxing for the first time in months. Tell me about your brother, he said suddenly, surprising himself with the personal question. Destiny's face softened. Terrence is 19. He's been fighting leukemia for 2 years now. He's the strongest person I know, always making jokes, always looking for the bright side of things. That must be difficult for you, Vincent said, his voice unusually gentle. It is, Destiny admitted. But it's also made me realize what's really important in life. Family, kindness, taking care of each other, those things matter more than money or success. Vincent felt a pang of recognition. I used to think that way, he said quietly, before I took over the company. My father taught me that business was about people, not just profits. What changed? Destiny asked. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. When Dad died, I was so afraid of failing, of losing everything he had built. I thought if I could just work harder, be more demanding, control every detail, I could make the company successful enough to honor his memory. But somewhere along the way, I forgot about the people part. Destiny reached across the table and gently touched his hand. It's not too late to remember. Vincent looked down at her hand on his, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years: genuine human connection. You make it sound so simple. Maybe it is, Destiny said with a smile. Maybe kindness is simpler than we think. When they returned to the office, Vincent made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of disappearing into his office, he walked around the floor, stopping at each desk to ask his employees how they were doing. He thanked the mailroom staff for their hard work, complimented the accounting team on their recent project, and even remembered to ask Patricia about her daughter's school play. Destiny watched from her desk, feeling a warm glow of pride. This was the man Vincent could be, the man he was meant to be. She had seen glimpses of his real personality over the past week, and she knew that beneath the harsh exterior was someone who genuinely cared about others. Over the next few days, Vincent continued to surprise everyone with small acts of kindness. He brought donuts for the morning shift, stayed late to help a struggling employee with a project, and even smiled at people in the hallway. The transformation was subtle but noticeable, and it was all because of Destiny's influence. On Thursday evening, as the office was emptying out, Vincent knocked on Destiny's desk. Would you like to have dinner with me tonight? He asked. Not a working dinner, just dinner. Destiny looked up at him with surprise. Mr. Kane, I don't think. Vincent, he interrupted. Please call me Vincent. And this isn't about work. I'd like to spend more time with you. Destiny felt her heart skip a beat. Over the past 2 weeks, she had come to see Vincent as more than just her boss. She had seen his vulnerability, his kindness, and his capacity for change. But she also knew that getting involved with him personally could complicate everything. I'd like that, she said finally. But I should probably go home and check on Terrence first. Of course, Vincent said. Actually, would you mind if I came with you? I'd like to meet him. Destiny's eyes widened with surprise. Are you sure? He's going through chemotherapy, so he's not always feeling well. I'm sure, Vincent said firmly. If he's important to you, then he's important to me. As they left the office together, Destiny felt something shifting between them. This was no longer just about work or professional obligations. Vincent Kane was becoming someone she genuinely cared about, and the feeling seemed to be mutual. The question was whether they could navigate the complicated transition from boss and employee to something more personal and meaningful. Vincent's first meeting with Terrence Washington was nothing like what he had expected. The young man was thin from chemotherapy, but his eyes sparkled with intelligence and humor. When Destiny introduced Vincent as her boss, Terrence grinned and shook his hand with surprising strength. So you're the famous Mr. Kane, Terrence said with a mischievous smile. Destiny talks about you all the time. Terrence? Destiny protested, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. What? It's true. Terrence laughed. She comes home every day with stories about how you're changing, how you're becoming more human. I was starting to wonder if you were real or just some character she made up. Vincent found himself smiling despite his nervousness. I'm real, though your sister might argue about the human part. Oh, she thinks you're very human, Terrence said, ignoring Destiny's warning look. She thinks you're just misunderstood. Over dinner, Vincent watched the easy relationship between the siblings. Terrence teased Destiny about her cooking, she worried about him eating enough, and they both shared stories about their grandmother who had raised them. Vincent felt a pang of longing for the kind of family connection he had lost when his father died. What about you, Mr. Kane? Terrence asked. Do you have any brothers or sisters? No, it's just me, Vincent replied. My parents always said I was enough work for 3 children. That's probably true, Destiny said with a teasing smile, and Vincent felt his heart skip at the playful tone in her voice. As the evening progressed, Vincent found himself relaxing completely for the first time in years. He told stories about his father's business adventures, listened to Terrence's plans for college after his treatment ended, and helped Destiny with the dishes. It was ordinary, domestic, and absolutely perfect. When it was time to leave, Terrence pulled Vincent aside. Thank you for taking care of my sister, he said quietly. She's been carrying a lot of weight for a long time. It's good to see her happy. She takes care of me more than I take care of her, Vincent replied honestly. That's what she does, Terrence said with a knowing smile. But everyone needs someone to take care of them sometimes. The next few weeks at work took on a different quality. Vincent and Destiny had crossed an invisible line from strictly professional to something deeper and more personal. They still maintained their work relationship, but there were moments of connection that went beyond business. Vincent began asking Destiny's opinion on important decisions, not just about scheduling but about company policy and employee relations. He discovered that she had insights into human nature that he had never considered. When a longtime employee was struggling with personal problems, Destiny suggested offering flexible work arrangements instead of discipline. When a department was falling behind on deadlines, she recommended additional training rather than threats. You see people differently than I do, Vincent told her one afternoon as they reviewed quarterly reports. You see their potential instead of their failures. Everyone has potential, Destiny replied. Sometimes they just need someone to believe in them. Vincent looked at her thoughtfully. Is that what you did for me? Believed in me? I saw who you really were underneath all the anger and fear, Destiny said softly. I saw someone who cared so much about succeeding that he forgot how to be happy. Vincent reached across the desk and took her hand. You've changed my life, Destiny. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, she replied, squeezing his hand. You did the hard work of changing yourself. That evening, Vincent made a decision that would have been unthinkable just a month earlier. Instead of working late, he left the office at 5 p.m. and drove to a bookstore. He spent an hour browsing the medical section, looking for books about leukemia and cancer treatment. He wanted to understand what Terrence was going through, to find ways to support both him and Destiny. When he arrived at Destiny's apartment with a bag of books and groceries for dinner, she opened the door with surprise and delight. Vincent, what are you doing here? I thought we could cook dinner together, he said, feeling suddenly shy. And I brought some books for Terrence. I thought he might be interested in learning about the latest treatment options. Destiny's eyes filled with tears. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I did, Vincent said, echoing her words from that day in his office. Taking care of people is what I want to do. As they cooked dinner together, Vincent felt a sense of peace he had never experienced before. This was what he had been missing, not just success or achievement but connection, love, and the simple joy of caring for someone else. When Terrence joined them for dinner, he flipped through the books with genuine interest. These are amazing, he said. Some of these treatments are so new that my doctors haven't even mentioned them. We could ask your doctor about them, Destiny suggested. Vincent, would you mind coming to Terrence's next appointment? You might be able to ask questions that we wouldn't think of. Vincent felt a surge of emotion at being included in such an important part of their lives. I'd be honored, he said. As the evening wound down, Vincent realized that he was falling in love with Destiny Washington. Not just because she was beautiful and intelligent, but because she had shown him how to be the person he was meant to be. She had helped him find his way back to his humanity, and in doing so, had given him something more valuable than any business success. The question was whether he was brave enough to tell her how he felt. The medical appointment was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, and Vincent had rearranged his entire schedule to accompany Destiny and Terrence to the oncology center. As they sat in the waiting room, Vincent noticed how Destiny's hands trembled slightly as she filled out paperwork, and how Terrence tried to hide his nervousness behind jokes and casual conversation. "Mr. Washington?" a nurse called out, and Vincent watched as Destiny immediately stood to accompany her brother. The protective instinct was so natural, so automatic that it made Vincent's heart ache. Dr. Martinez was a kind woman in her 50s who had been treating Terrence for the past 2 years. She explained the latest test results with careful patience, using terms that Vincent found himself actually understanding thanks to the research he had done. "The good news is that Terrence is responding well to the current treatment," Dr. Martinez said. "However, we're at a point where we need to consider the next phase of treatment. There's a new experimental therapy that could significantly improve his long-term prognosis." Vincent leaned forward, his business instincts kicking in. "What does this treatment involve and what are the success rates?" Dr. Martinez smiled at his direct approach. "The treatment has shown an 80% success rate in clinical trials. However, it's not covered by standard insurance plans. The cost would be approximately $200,000 over 6 months. Vincent saw Destiny's face go pale, and Terrence's attempt to hide his disappointment. Without hesitation, Vincent pulled out his business card and handed it to Dr. Martinez. "Please send all the information about this treatment to my office. I'll take care of the financial arrangements." "Vincent, no," Destiny said immediately. "We can't accept that." "We'll discuss it later," Vincent said firmly, his tone brooking no argument. "Doctor, please proceed with setting up the treatment schedule." The car ride back to the office was tense with unspoken emotions. Terrence sat in the back seat, staring out the window, while Destiny remained silent beside Vincent. Finally she spoke. "Pull over," she said quietly. Vincent found a parking spot and turned to face her. "Destiny. Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. "Why did you offer to pay for Terrence's treatment without even asking me first?" Vincent took a deep breath. "Because I care about you. Both of you. And because I have the money to help, and you need the help." "That's not the point," Destiny said, tears beginning to fall. "I can't accept that kind of money from you. It would change everything between us." "How would it change things?" Vincent asked, genuinely confused. "Because then I would never know if you care about me for who I am, or if you're just the man who saved my brother's life," Destiny said. "And you would never know if I'm with you because I love you, or because I'm grateful for what you did." Vincent felt his heart stop. "You love me?" Destiny looked at him with surprise, as if she hadn't realized what she had said. Yes. I love you, Vincent. I love the man you've become, the kindness you've shown, the way you've changed. But I can't accept your money." "Destiny," Vincent said softly, reaching for her hand. "I love you too. I've been trying to find the courage to tell you for weeks. And my wanting to help Terrence has nothing to do with trying to buy your affection. It's because when you love someone you want to help the people they love." From the back seat, Terrence cleared his throat. "If I can interrupt this romantic moment, I have something to say." They both turned to look at him, and Vincent was surprised to see tears in the young man's eyes. "Mr. Kane," Terrence said quietly, "I know you're trying to help and I appreciate it more than you know. But Destiny is right. We can't accept that money from you." "Terrence," Vincent began. "Let me finish," Terrence said with a gentle smile. "We can't accept it as charity. But what if we earned it?" "What do you mean?" Destiny asked. "What if Mr. Kane hired me to do something for his company? Research, data analysis, whatever I can do from home during my treatment. Pay me a salary that would cover the medical costs. That way it's not charity, it's a job." Vincent felt a surge of admiration for the young man's pride and creativity. "That's actually a brilliant idea. I've been looking for someone to help with market research for our new technology division. The work can be done remotely, and I could use someone with your analytical skills." "Are you serious?" Terrence asked. "Completely serious," Vincent replied. "You'd be perfect for the job. And the salary would be enough to cover your treatment costs." Destiny looked between them, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You would do that? Create a job for Terrence?" "I'm not creating a job," Vincent said honestly. "I'm filling a position I actually need filled. The fact that it solves our problem is just good business planning." For the first time since leaving the doctor's office, Destiny smiled. "You really are impossible, you know that?" "So I've been told," Vincent replied with a grin. "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes," Destiny said, leaning across the car to kiss him softly. "But we're doing this properly. Terrence will have a real job with real responsibilities and he'll earn every penny. I wouldn't have it any other way," Vincent said, feeling his heart swell with love and pride. As they drove back to the office, Vincent realized that this was what happiness felt like. Not the temporary satisfaction of closing a business deal, but the deep, lasting joy of being part of a family. Destiny had given him something more valuable than success. She had given him love, purpose, and the chance to be the man his father had always wanted him to be. The revelation that had started in a doctor's office had become something much more profound. It wasn't just about Terrence's treatment or Vincent's money. It was about three people who had found each other and chosen to become a family. Now Vincent just had to figure out how to make it official. The next morning, Vincent arrived at work with a new energy that everyone in the office could feel. He greeted the security guard by name, complimented the receptionist on her new haircut, and even stopped to chat with employees he hadn't spoken to in months. When he reached his office, he found Destiny already at her desk, but something was different about her demeanor. "Good morning," he said, setting down his briefcase and moving closer to her desk. "You look thoughtful." "I've been thinking about yesterday," Destiny said, looking up at him with serious eyes. "About everything that happened, everything we said." Vincent felt a flutter of nervousness. "And? I want to make sure we're being honest with each other," Destiny said, standing up and walking around her desk to face him. "About what this means, about what we want." Vincent nodded, recognizing the importance of the moment. "You're right. We should talk properly. Would you like to have dinner tonight? Somewhere private where we can really discuss everything?" "I'd like that," Destiny said softly. "But Vincent, I need you to know that I've never been in a relationship with my boss before. I'm not sure how to navigate this." "Neither am I," Vincent admitted. "But I know that what I feel for you is real and it has nothing to do with work. You've changed my life, Destiny. You've made me want to be a better person." "You've changed mine too," she replied. "You've shown me that success and kindness don't have to be mutually exclusive." That evening, Vincent picked Destiny up at her apartment, and they drove to a small Italian restaurant that he had chosen specifically because it was quiet and intimate. As they settled into their booth, Vincent felt more nervous than he had before any business meeting. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," he began. "About not knowing if your feelings are real or just gratitude. I want you to know that I would have fallen in love with you even if Terrence wasn't sick." Destiny smiled. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I fell in love with your kindness, your intelligence, your strength," Vincent said. "I fell in love with the way you see the best in people, the way you care about others, the way you made me remember who I used to be. None of that has anything to do with your brother's illness." "I fell in love with your vulnerability," Destiny said softly. "The way you let me see past all the walls you built up. The way you trusted me with your pain about your father. The way you're learning to be gentle with yourself and others." Vincent reached across the table and took her hand. "I want to be with you, Destiny. Not as your boss, not as someone who's helping your family, but as the man who loves you more than he ever thought possible." "I want that too," Destiny said, squeezing his hand. "But we need to figure out how to make it work. I can't be your employee and your girlfriend at the same time." "You're right," Vincent said, having already thought about this problem. "I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "I want to promote you to Director of Human Resources," Vincent said. "It's a position that's been vacant for months and you're perfect for it. You understand people, you know how to motivate them, and you've already proven you can handle the pressure. The salary would be double what you're making now, and you'd have your own office and staff." Destiny's eyes widened. "Vincent, that's incredibly generous, but I don't want you to create a position for me just so we can date." "I'm not creating a position," Vincent said earnestly. "I'm filling a position that desperately needs to be filled. The company has been struggling with employee retention and morale issues for years. You've seen how the staff has changed just in the few weeks since you started working with me. You have a natural talent for understanding what people need." "But I don't have experience in human resources," Destiny protested. "You have something better than experience," Vincent said. "You have empathy, intelligence, and the ability to see solutions where others see only problems. I'll arrange for you to get any training you need, and you'll have full authority to make changes that will improve the workplace for everyone." Destiny was quiet for a long moment, considering his offer. "You really think I could do this job?" "I know you could," Vincent said confidently. "You've already been doing it informally. Every suggestion you've made about employee relations has been spot on. Every person you've interacted with has responded positively to your approach." "What about us?" Destiny asked. "How do we handle a relationship when we're both executives in the same company?" "We'll be honest with HR about our relationship," Vincent said. We'll follow all the proper protocols and we'll make sure there's no conflict of interest. Your new position would report directly to the board, not to me, so there wouldn't be any issues with supervision or performance reviews. Destiny smiled. You've really thought this through. I've thought about nothing else for the past week, Vincent admitted. I want to build a life with you, Destiny. I want to wake up next to you every morning, come home to you every night, and spend the rest of my life making you happy. That sounds wonderful, Destiny said, her eyes bright with tears of joy. But there's one more thing we need to discuss. What's that? Terrence, Destiny said. If we're going to be together, you need to understand that he's not just my brother, he's my responsibility. I've been taking care of him since he was 14, and I'm not going to stop now. I wouldn't want you to, Vincent said immediately. Terrence is part of you, which makes him part of me. I want to help take care of him if you'll let me. Even after he's better? Even when he goes to college and starts his own life. Especially then, Vincent said. Destiny, I don't just want to be your boyfriend. I want to be your partner in everything. I want us to be a family. Destiny felt her heart swell with love and gratitude. Are you sure you're ready for that? It's a big change from being a bachelor billionaire. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Vincent said, standing up and moving to kneel beside her chair. Destiny Washington, I love you more than I ever thought possible. Will you accept the job as Director of Human Resources? Yes, Destiny said with a laugh. I accept the job. And will you also accept the position of the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with? Yes, Destiny said, leaning down to kiss him softly. I accept that position too. As they held each other in the quiet restaurant, both of them knew that this was just the beginning of their story together. They had found love in the most unexpected place, and they were ready to build a future that neither of them could have imagined just a few months before. 3 weeks later, Vincent was putting the finishing touches on the most important presentation of his life. But this wasn't about mergers or acquisitions, it was about love, commitment, and the grand gesture that would show Destiny exactly how much she meant to him. Destiny had settled into her new role as Director of Human Resources with remarkable ease. Her first initiative had been to implement flexible work schedules for employees dealing with family crises. Her second had been to create a mentorship program that paired experienced workers with newcomers. The entire office atmosphere had transformed under her influence, and productivity had actually increased despite the more relaxed environment. Vincent watched her through the glass wall of her new office, marveling at how naturally she had taken to leadership. She was currently meeting with a group of employees who had come to her with concerns about workplace stress, and he could see them relaxing and smiling as she spoke. This was what she was meant to do: help people, solve problems, and make the world a better place. Mr. Kane? Patricia's voice interrupted his thoughts. The ring is here. Vincent's heart skipped a beat. He had spent weeks working with a custom jeweler to create the perfect engagement ring for Destiny. It was a classic solitaire with a conflict-free diamond, set in a simple platinum band. He had chosen it because it was elegant but not ostentatious, just like Destiny herself. Thank you, Patricia, he said, taking the small velvet box. Is everything else ready? The conference room is set up, the catering is arranged, and all the employees have been notified about the special meeting at 4 p.m., Patricia said with a knowing smile. Mr. Kane, if you don't mind me saying, this is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. Vincent felt his cheeks flush. Do you think she'll like it? She'll love it, Patricia assured him. Everyone in the office is rooting for you too. At 3:55 p.m., Vincent stood in front of the large conference room, his palms sweating and his heart racing. He had faced hostile takeovers, difficult negotiations, and billion-dollar deals, but nothing had ever made him as nervous as this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, he began as the entire staff filed into the room, thank you for joining me this afternoon. I know this is unusual, but I have something important to share with all of you. Destiny entered the room last, looking confused and slightly concerned. Vincent had told her there was an emergency staff meeting, but she hadn't expected to see the entire company gathered together. As you all know, Vincent continued, our company has undergone some significant changes over the past few months. We've improved our work environment, increased employee satisfaction, and somehow managed to boost our profits at the same time. This transformation didn't happen by accident, it happened because of one person who showed us all what it means to lead with kindness and compassion. Vincent's eyes found Destiny in the crowd, and he saw her beginning to understand what was happening. Her hand went to her throat, and her eyes widened with surprise. Destiny Washington came to work for me as my assistant, Vincent said, his voice growing stronger with each word. But she became so much more than that. She became my teacher, my inspiration, and my guide back to the person I was meant to be. Vincent walked through the crowd until he was standing directly in front of Destiny. You showed me that success isn't just about profits and achievements. It's about the people you care about, the lives you touch, and the legacy you leave behind. Vincent, Destiny whispered, tears already forming in her eyes. What are you doing? I'm telling everyone what you mean to me, Vincent said, dropping to one knee and pulling out the ring box. Destiny Washington, you have changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've made me kinder, gentler, and more human. You've shown me what real love looks like. A collective gasp went up from the assembled employees, and Vincent heard someone whisper, "Oh my God, he's proposing. I want to spend the rest of my life learning from you, growing with you, and loving you," Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion. "Will you marry me?" Destiny looked down at him, then at the ring, then at the faces of their co-workers who were all watching with anticipation and joy. She thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment, from his impossible demands to her patient understanding, from his vulnerability to their growing love. "Yes," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Then louder, "Yes, Vincent Kane, I will marry you." The room erupted in cheers and applause as Vincent slipped the ring onto Destiny's finger and stood to kiss her. Through her tears, Destiny could see their co-workers celebrating, and she felt overwhelmed by the love and support surrounding them. "I can't believe you did this in front of everyone," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "I wanted everyone to know," Vincent said, holding her close. "I wanted the whole world to know how much I love you." As their colleagues surrounded them with congratulations and well wishes, Destiny felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had taken a job to help her brother, but she had found something much more precious: a man who loved her completely, a career that fulfilled her, and a future that was brighter than anything she had ever imagined. Terrence, who had been watching from the doorway, made his way through the crowd with a huge grin on his face. "Welcome to the family, Mr. Kane," he said, shaking Vincent's hand. "But I think you should probably start calling me Terrence." Vincent laughed, pulling the young man into a bear hug. "I think you should probably start calling me Vincent." As the celebration continued around them, Vincent and Destiny stood together, planning their future and marveling at how far they had come. From a broken CEO and a desperate job seeker to a couple deeply in love, their story was proof that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. 6 months later, Vincent Kane stood at the altar of a small church, adjusting his tie for the 10th time and trying to calm his racing heart. The morning sun streamed through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the wooden pews filled with employees, friends, and family. He had chosen this intimate setting because Destiny had mentioned once that she dreamed of a simple wedding surrounded by people who truly cared about them. Terrence appeared at his side, looking healthy and strong in his role as best man. The experimental treatment had been even more successful than expected, and the young man was now in complete remission. He had also proven to be exceptional at his job with Kane Industries, bringing fresh perspectives and innovative ideas to the technology division. "Nervous?" Terrence asked with a grin. "Terrified," Vincent admitted. "What if I'm not good enough for her? What if I slip back into my old ways?" "You won't," Terrence said confidently. "You know how I know? Because you're asking those questions." The old Vincent Kane never worried about being good enough for anyone. The music began, and Vincent's breath caught as he saw Destiny appear at the end of the aisle. She looked radiant in a simple white dress that emphasized her natural beauty, her hair styled in soft curls that framed her face. She carried a bouquet of white roses and smiled at him with such love and joy that he felt his eyes fill with tears. As she walked toward him, Vincent thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, he had been a lonely, angry man who drove away everyone who tried to help him. Now he was surrounded by people who genuinely cared about him, about to marry the woman who had saved his life in every way that mattered. "Who gives this woman to be married to this man?" the pastor asked when Destiny reached the altar. "I do," Terrence said proudly, kissing his sister's cheek before placing her hand in Vincent's. "Take care of her, man. She's the best person I know." "I will," Vincent promised, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she's happy." The ceremony was simple but beautiful, with personal vows that had everyone in tears. Vincent promised to love Destiny with the same patience and kindness she had shown him. Destiny promised to support Vincent's continued growth and to challenge him to be the best version of himself. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, Vincent kissed Destiny with such tenderness that the entire congregation erupted in applause. As they walked back down the aisle together, Vincent felt a sense of completion he had never experienced before. The reception was held in the ballroom of a hotel downtown, but Vincent had insisted on keeping it relatively small and personal. He wanted to be able to actually talk to their guests, to thank them for their support and celebrate with them properly. During his speech, Vincent looked out at the faces of his employees, people who had once feared him and now considered him a friend. "A year ago I was a very different man," he said. "I thought success meant being feared, that leadership meant being harsh, and that love was a weakness I couldn't afford. My wife taught me that I was wrong about everything." He turned to Destiny, who was sitting beside him with tears in her eyes. "You didn't just change my business practices or my management style. You changed my heart. You showed me that the most successful companies are built on trust, respect, and genuine care for people. You taught me that love isn't a weakness, it's the greatest strength any person can have." Destiny stood up and kissed him, whispering, "I love you too, Mr. Kane." "Mrs. Kane," Vincent corrected with a smile, and the crowd cheered. As the evening progressed, Vincent found himself on the dance floor with his new wife, swaying to their song while their friends and family celebrated around them. "Are you happy?" he asked, looking into her eyes. "Incredibly happy," Destiny replied. "Are you?" "More than I ever thought possible," Vincent said. "Thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't even know existed." "Thank you for being brave enough to change," Destiny said. "Not everyone would have been willing to do the work you did." Vincent spun her around, laughing at her delighted squeal. "So what happens now, Mrs. Kane? What's our next adventure?" "Well," Destiny said with a mischievous smile, "I was thinking we could work on expanding our family. Terrence has been dropping hints about wanting to be an uncle." Vincent's eyes widened with joy. "Really? You want to have children?" "I want to have your children," Destiny said. "I want to raise them in a home filled with love, kindness, and the knowledge that they can achieve anything they dream of." "I can't wait," Vincent said, pulling her closer. "I love you, Destiny Kane." "I love you too, Vincent Kane." As they danced under the twinkling lights, surrounded by the people who loved them most, Vincent reflected on the miraculous transformation his life had undergone. He had started as a bitter, lonely man who pushed everyone away. Now he was a husband, a brother-in-law, a beloved boss, and soon-to-be father. He had learned that true success wasn't measured in dollars or achievements, but in the love you gave and received. The impossible boss had become a devoted husband. The woman who was supposed to last only a week had become his partner for life. And together they were building something beautiful, a marriage, a family, and a company culture that proved business could be both profitable and humane. As the night drew to a close and they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Vincent knew that this wasn't an ending but a beginning. He and Destiny had found their happily ever after, and they were ready to face whatever adventures life had in store for them. Together, they had turned an impossible situation into the greatest love story of their lives.